Let's get right into it. Pete Alonso still a free agent, and according to our Andy Martino, the Mets expect him to sign elsewhere. John, if the Mets do indeed move on from Pete Alonso, is that the right move for New York?
It's the right move for their books, and if that's the angle that you want to take on it, then sure. I truly do believe this. The New York Mets need another presence in their lineup. Juan Soto makes this team better. They're a good team with him. They're a really good team with him. They're a top-tier contender if they have another power bat behind him. Whether that is Pete Alonso or not, I'm not quite sure, Chris. If they want to go out there and test the market for Vlad Jr., like has been the discussion for the last week, maybe that's another option. But Pete Alonso is better than what some of his numbers on the surface show. He's still a guy who can hit 30-plus home runs. He was an all-star this past year, even though that was disputed by many, and he's well-liked by these fans. Regardless of where you come from, on where you stand, of how much money you would have paid him, you have to find a way, Niki, to fill that spot in the lineup, and none of the options that the Mets have on the table allow them to do that.
It's a complicated question to answer, which is why we're discussing it.
We have all night to talk about it.
From a business standpoint, from a market standpoint, as far as what's out there for Pete, I think the Mets have played it correctly, and I think that's been proven based on the fact that he's still unsigned, and it doesn't seem to be a lot of multi-year interest out there. And I get the Mets wanting to maintain some flexibility moving down the road, whether it's for Vlad Jr. or other moves they want to make to their starting 8, taking the pitcher out of the equation. But as far as 2025 goes, and you hit on it, John, I mean, as far as this lineup is concerned, it does feel short, maybe even 2 bats. So removing Pete from the equation, adding Soto is great. And I understand he's coming off not his best season, but I think it trended in the right direction down the stretch, certainly in the wild card series against Milwaukee. So there were signs of life there. He is a lifelong Met. So I think if it ultimately ends with him not in the lineup for 2025 and the Mets don't make any other significant moves, they're going to feel that throughout the course of the season. But in the long term, I understand Stearns' approach here and kind of taking a more of a cautious approach, more of a financially shrewd approach to maintain some of that flexibility moving forward.
So let's say Pete Alonso does go. Andy Martino is reporting the Mets will likely fill the first base role internally. CeeLo, if they move Mark Vientos from third to first, who do you want to see at third? Do you want to see Brett Baty, Ronnie Mauricio, or Luis Angel Acuna take that spot?
All things even, assuming health for everyone, which is a big assumption. I like the intrigue of Mauricio. You like the little bit that we got to see of him at the end of 2023 before the unfortunate injury.
Feels like forever ago.
It does. And I can't speak to where he's at and whether, the Mets are going to feel comfortable handing over that type of role or responsibility to a guy that's still unproven. It's funny, this time last year, we were all, hey, we want to see more Brett Baty, lefty bat, high upside. We weren't talking as much about Vientos. So it just goes to show with these young players, you don't always have a great feel. I feel like Acuna is going to be more valuable from a versatility standpoint, can bounce around to a couple different positions. So of those options, I would say Mauricio, but I got to know more about his health.
I love taking my victory lap when I was saying that I was Team Vientos all off
there you go.
Last year. We got to air that montage.
Roll
I'll be waiting on that one.
No,
but and it's nothing against Baty. I think Brett Baty is a player who can be on a roster. I don't think he's the strongest option the Mets have. Mauricio is a guy where if he's playing at full health, he could potentially contribute 20 home runs or so, which would be valuable. I think Acuna is their safest option to start the season. I think he outperformed what a lot of the expectations were in September. So he's one of the faster players in the game. He's got a low strikeout rate, and he provided a little bit of energy for the Mets too, which they'd like. But ultimately, and I truly believe this, Niki, if the Mets don't add another big bat, they're going to be in the market for one at the hot corner come trade deadline time.